My daughter kicked me out of her wedding after I tried to warn her about a talking red flag. In response, I froze my card. Now she's stuck in a nightmare she can't wake up from, and honestly, I never pictured life going down this road. I busted my tail to give my daughter, Emily, the kind of life she deserved, especially after things crumbled between her mother and me. Emily was just 13 years old when Rachel and I split up. It wasn't some nasty, dramatic breakup, but even the smoothest divorce leaves scars, and Emily definitely felt it. Rachel wasted no time moving on. She remarried within a year and cranked out 3 more kids pretty quick, first a little girl and then a set of twin boys. While Rachel dove headfirst into her new life, Emily was left standing on the outside, feeling like she didn't fit in anywhere. At first, I didn't really catch on. I figured Emily just needed some time to adjust to everything, like kids usually do when big changes hit. But as months turned into years, it became crystal clear she felt sidelined, replaced even, in her mom's new world. To make matters worse, Rachel didn't exactly hide her new priorities. Most of her energy went to raising her new little family, and Emily, well, she was often left to figure out her feelings on her own. That's when it hit me. I had to be the one to step up. I made it my personal mission to be Emily's safe harbor. I picked up extra shifts at work just so I could afford to give her the things she needed and wanted. I showed up to every single game, every school conference, every award ceremony, big or small. I promised myself that no matter what, I would be the steady hand she could always count on. At the time, I thought I was doing everything right. But looking back now, I can't help but wonder if I went too far. Maybe I sheltered her too much, gave her too much, and forgot to let her struggle a little, to learn how to stand on her own 2 feet. The trouble really started when Emily decided to take a 1.5-year break from high school. She told me she needed time to find herself. I wasn't exactly thrilled with the idea, but I bit my tongue and tried to support her. I kept telling myself that not every kid walks the same straight path through life. Some take the scenic route, and that's okay. Or at least that's what I kept repeating to myself. But what was supposed to be a short break to figure things out quickly spiraled into a lazy free-for-all. Instead of picking up a sport or trying out new hobbies, Emily wasted her days glued to the TV, scrolling endlessly through her phone, and hanging out with a crew of friends I didn't trust one bit. These weren't kids who inspired her to grow or chase goals. They were just as lost as she was. I tried sitting her down for some real talks, but every time I opened my mouth about getting her life back on track, it blew up into a full-on screaming match. The second I even hinted that she needed some direction, she'd lash out, accusing me of being unsupportive and clueless. It felt like I was constantly tiptoeing around her moods, trying to be supportive without completely giving up on guiding her. Everything came to a head the night she tried sneaking out after I'd already gone to bed. I caught her halfway out her bedroom window, and when I confronted her, she lost it, screaming at me like I was the enemy. She couldn't, or wouldn't, see that I was trying to protect her. To her, I was just the bad guy standing in her way. That night, after everything calmed down, I sat alone and did some serious soul-searching. Had I been too soft? Too strict? Was it the divorce messing her up? Or the way her mom made her feel like she didn't belong? I was desperate for answers. That's when I turned to therapy. Emily started seeing a therapist, and at first, it seemed like we were making progress. She was calmer, more open, willing to have real conversations. But as soon as therapy sessions got a little uncomfortable, she'd bail. Over and over, start therapy, quit when it got hard, act out, and then repeat the cycle. I threw everything I could at the problem, late-night heart-to-hearts, family vacations, even the occasional bride. I bought her the latest tech, hoping it might spark some motivation for school or a new sport. I whisked her away on trips, thinking maybe a change of scenery would reset her mindset. Nothing stuck. After 2 long, painful years, Emily finally agreed to go back to school. I was beyond relieved. I was ecstatic. I really thought we had turned a corner. I believed she was finally ready to take life seriously, to carve out a future she could be proud of. For a little while, it felt like all the heartbreak and sleepless nights had been worth it. But that high didn't last long. Not even 6 months after re-enrolling, Emily met Tyler. Tyler was 25 years old, working as a delivery driver for his parents' bakery. He had dropped out of high school in the 9th grade and pretty much drifted through life without much ambition. His whole plan seemed to be see where the road takes me. At first, I tried not to judge him. Honest work is nothing to scoff at, and not everyone's cut out for college life. But the deeper Emily fell for him, the more cracks I started seeing in his picture. Tyler wasn't just drifting, he was reckless. He'd already been married once at 22, and that disaster only lasted 8 months before he and his wife called it quits, saying it just wasn't working. You didn't have to be a genius to realize Tyler had no business thinking about marriage again, let alone with my daughter. But Emily? Emily thought he hung the moon. Tyler had a way about him. He was funny, easygoing, and made Emily feel seen in a way she hadn't felt for a long time. I really wanted to be happy for her. I wanted to trust that she knew what she was doing. But no matter how much I tried, something deep inside kept screaming that something wasn't right. Then, out of the blue, Emily hit me with the bombshell. She and Tyler were getting married. It wasn't a conversation. She didn't sit down and ask for my advice or my blessing. It was just a done deal. She had already picked the date, started making wedding plans, all without even giving me a heads up. And when I tried to bring it up, to talk it through with her, she completely shut me down. "You're just jealous because I'm happy," she snapped at me. I sat there, stunned. What was I supposed to say to that? How do you argue with someone who's so deep in love that they can't see straight? How do you explain to your kid that they're running straight into a brick wall when they think they're dancing through a field of flowers? That night, I just sat alone in the living room, staring into space, wondering how everything had gotten so off track. I thought about everything I'd sacrificed for Emily, how many times I put her first, gave her everything I had, tried to be the dad she could always lean on. And now, here I was, watching her speed toward disaster, powerless to do a damn thing to stop it. It hit me hard, the painful truth that no matter how much you love your kid, you can't always shield them from their own bad choices. The night Emily told me she was getting married felt like someone had kicked me right in the chest. She didn't sit me down for a heart-to-heart. She just tossed it out over dinner like it was no bigger deal than picking a movie to watch. "Tyler and I are getting married next month," she said, beaming like it was the best news I'd ever hear. For a second, I actually thought she was kidding. "Wait, married?" I asked, hoping I'd misunderstood. She just shrugged and smiled bigger. "We're in love, Dad. We already picked the date and everything." I sat there, speechless. My 20-year-old daughter, who hadn't even finished high school yet, had no job, no real plan, and now she wanted to marry a guy she'd only known a few months, a guy with no ambition, no savings, and no clear future in sight. "Emily, don't you think this is a little fast?" I said carefully, trying to keep my voice steady. "Marriage isn't something you rush into. It's serious. Have you really thought this through?" She rolled her eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. "Dad, you overthink everything. Tyler and I are soulmates. We don't need anyone's approval, not even yours." That felt like a punch I didn't see coming. I'd always been the one she counted on, the one who stood by her side no matter what. And now she was tossing my opinion aside like it didn't matter at all. I tried to stay calm and reason with her. "Emily, you're still young. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Why not focus on finishing school first? Build a future. Marriage isn't going anywhere." Her whole face hardened. "You're just being negative. I knew you wouldn't support me." That's when it really hit me. She wasn't just playing around. She was dead serious about this, and no matter what I said, she wasn't going to hear it. Over the next few days, I kept trying to bring it up, hoping maybe she'd cool off and listen. I asked the practical stuff. How are you two planning to support yourselves? Where are you going to live? How are you going to cover bills, rent, groceries? Every single time, she brushed it off like it was no big deal. "We'll figure it out," she said. "Love's all we need." I could feel my blood pressure rising. "Emily," I said, trying to stay calm, "love matters, sure. But love doesn't pay the electric bill. It doesn't put food on the table. Marriage isn't just a fairy tale, it's real life. It's about building something together, and that takes money, hard work, and planning." She rolled her eyes again like I was some dinosaur who didn't get how things worked anymore. "You're stuck in the past, Dad. You don't understand how it is now." I wanted to grab her by the shoulders and shake some sense into her. How could she not see the disaster waiting around the corner? How could she be so blind to what she was throwing herself into? I figured if I couldn't get through to Emily, maybe I could reach Tyler. Maybe if I sat down with him, man to man, I could at least plant some seeds of doubt. So we agreed to meet up at a local diner. I told myself to keep an open mind. Tyler seemed all right on the surface, polite enough, friendly, even a little charming if you didn't dig too deep. But once we started really talking, it became painfully obvious he had no clue what real responsibility looked like. "So, what's the plan for the future?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. He just shrugged. "We'll figure it out as we go." I had to clench my jaw to keep from snapping right there. Marriage isn't something you can just wing. It takes serious planning and commitment. Do you guys have any savings? Any sort of budget? Long-term goals? I pressed him. He nodded along like he was listening, but I could tell my words were bouncing right off them. I decided to spell it out even clearer. Look, Emily's still in school. She's not working yet. Are you ready to take on the responsibility of supporting her until she gets on her feet? His answer? We'll manage. Love's more important than money. And right then and there, I knew this wasn't going to end well. Tyler wasn't a bad kid deep down, but he was in no way ready for the reality of marriage. And Emily, God love her, was already barely keeping her own life together. Now she was diving headfirst into a situation that was bound to make everything 10 times harder. When I got back home that night, I sat Emily down and tried to have one more honest talk with her. I laid it all out for Emily, telling her exactly why I was worried and begging her to rethink things. I'm not trying to run your life, I said, doing my best to keep my voice steady. I just want the best for you, that's all. Can't you see you're rushing into something you're not ready for? I asked. You've got so much potential, so many doors still waiting to open for you. Why slam them shut with a decision like this? Her response was ice cold. If you can't be supportive, then you're not welcome at my wedding, she snapped. Hearing those words felt like someone twisting a knife straight into my chest. Emily, you don't mean that, I whispered, hoping she'd take it back. But she just stared me down and said, firm as ever, oh, I mean it. That's it, she added. You're not invited. I don't want any negativity spoiling my day. I sat there in complete shock. My own daughter was kicking me out of her wedding because I dared to disagree with her. That night, sitting alone in my room, I made a decision too. If she didn't want me to be part of the wedding, then I sure wasn't going to be the one paying for it. Emily had been organizing everything using the emergency credit card I'd given her, thinking she was building her dream day on my dime. First thing the next morning, I froze the card. It didn't take long before she noticed. Within hours, she was blowing up my phone, calling and texting nonstop, absolutely furious. You ruined everything, she screamed through the phone. How could you do this to me? You're trying to destroy my happiness. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. Emily, I said, if you're grown up enough to make your own choices, then you're grown up enough to deal with what comes next. If you don't want me involved in your wedding, you can't expect me to foot the bill for it. She reacted exactly the way I expected, calling me selfish, accusing me of trying to control her life, saying I was heartless and didn't care about her happiness. She even accused me of trying to ruin her life altogether. But for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty. I still loved Emily more than anything on this earth, but I knew deep down that continuing to fund her bad decisions was only going to hurt her more. If she was determined to live like an adult, it was about time she learned what being an adult actually meant, taking responsibility for your own messes. As painful as it was, I knew I had made the right call. After freezing Emily's card, I had no illusions. Things were about to get even uglier. I hadn't wanted it to come to this, but there was no way I was going to finance a wedding where I wasn't even wanted. In my mind, the line was clear. If I wasn't invited, neither was my wallet. Emily, of course, didn't take it well. That same night, she came storming through the front door, her face bright red with rage. How could you do this to me, Dad? She shouted before she even set her purse down. I stood my ground. Emily, I have been in your corner your entire life. I've backed you up even when you didn't make it easy. But I'm not about to pay for a wedding I'm banned from attending. That's not how any of this works. You're just being selfish, she screamed. You don't care about what I want. You just want control. Her words hurt. I won't lie. But I stayed calm. No, Emily, I said. I care about your future. That's why I'm standing firm. If you want to be treated like an adult, then you need to accept what comes with that. She didn't have anything else to say, at least not with words. She stormed off down the hallway, slamming her bedroom door so hard the whole house rattled. For the next few days, it was like living with a ghost. Emily barely spoke to me, only creeping out of her room when she needed to grab food or leave the house. The tension in the air was so thick you could practically choke on it. Still, I wasn't going to cave. I decided it was time to call in backup. Emily had always been close to my mom, her grandmother, Margaret. If anyone had a shot at getting through to her, it was her. Margaret is tough as nails, a no-nonsense woman at 73 years old who never sugar-coated anything, not when raising me and not now. She raised me with a whole lot of tough love, and maybe that's exactly what Emily needed at this point. I explained everything to my mom one afternoon over coffee. She let out a long, tired sigh. That girl's just like her mother, she said. Stubborn as a mule and too proud to admit when she's wrong. But don't worry, I'll talk to her. We set up a little family sit-down, with Grandma leading the charge. Emily sat across from us, arms crossed tight over her chest, her face twisted into a scowl that could stop traffic. My mom didn't waste time getting straight to business. Emily, she said, marriage isn't just about being in love. It's about commitment, it's about responsibility, and it's about having a plan. Have you and Tyler even thought about any of that? How are you two going to survive? Have you put aside any money? Made any kind of real plan? Emily rolled her eyes like a bratty teenager. We'll figure it out, Grandma. Things aren't like they were in your day. Grandma's face hardened immediately. You think everything's different now, but the basics haven't changed one bit, she said, her voice like steel. Love doesn't keep the lights on. It doesn't put a roof over your head or food on the table. You need a real foundation to build a life on. And from what your dad's told me, you and Tyler don't have anything close to that. Emily didn't say a word. She just sat there, arms folded tight, staring at the floor. My mom kept going, sharing some real stories about the rough times she and my dad had when they first tied the knot. She talked about the sacrifices they made, how tight money was back then, and all the hard work it took to build something steady and lasting. Marriage isn't some fairy tale, Emily, she said firmly. It's long days, hard choices, and figuring things out together. If you're not ready for that kind of work, it'll fall apart faster than you can even blink. Emily finally spoke up, her voice sharp and defensive. You don't get it, she said, her tone colder than I'd ever heard it. Tyler and I know what we're doing. We love each other, and that's what matters. My mom just shook her head slowly, sadness flashing in her eyes. Oh, Emily, you're walking straight into a mistake, and you're too stubborn to even see it. If you won't listen to me or your dad, maybe the only way you'll learn is the hard way. With that, she got up from the table and left the room without another word. I could see how defeated she looked, and it tore me up inside because I felt the exact same way. As much as I prayed Emily might snap out of it, deep down, I knew she wasn't going to. After I froze the credit card, Emily and Tyler somehow still managed to keep pushing forward with their wedding plans. I found out one evening when she slammed the front door so hard the walls shook. We took out a loan, she announced, her voice practically vibrating with defiance. Did you really think you could stop us? Guess what, Dad? It's happening. Whether you like it or not. I just stared at her, trying to wrap my head around what she had just said. You took out a loan, Emily? I said slowly. Do you have any idea what you've just done? You're barely out of high school, no job, no savings, and now you're buried in debt before you've even started your life. Don't lecture me, she snapped, cutting me off. We're doing what we have to do. Not that you care, since you abandoned me when I needed you. Hearing her twist everything around like that made my blood boil, but I forced myself to stay calm. Emily, I didn't abandon you, I said, keeping my voice steady. You pushed me away. You told me you didn't want me at your wedding. Don't turn this into something it's not. She just rolled her eyes like I was the bad guy and stomped off to her room, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. It was crystal clear. There was no reaching her now. A week later, the wedding came and went. I wasn't there, obviously, but I got the rundown from my neighbor Sophie. Her daughter had been one of Emily's childhood friends and felt obligated to show up. It was fine, I guess, Sophie told me when we bumped into each other at the grocery store. She said it was a small venue with some flowers and a live band, but you could tell the whole thing had been slapped together at the last minute. Sophie paused for a second, then added in a low voice, Tyler's parents didn't look thrilled. They were polite, sure, but you could see it written all over their faces. They know it's a bad idea too. That didn't give me any comfort. I had been holding on to a tiny hope that maybe Tyler's parents would talk some sense into him, but it sounded like they were just as stuck on the sidelines as I was. On the actual day of the wedding, I stayed home, trying to distract myself with anything I could. I kept telling myself it didn't matter, that it wasn't worth getting upset over. But if I'm being honest, my heart was shattered. Every dad dreams about walking his daughter down the aisle, smiling through tears as she starts a new life surrounded by family and love. Instead, I was sitting alone in a quiet living room, staring at the walls, wondering where the hell it had all gone so wrong. Before Emily left for the ceremony, I quietly slipped a note into her room. It wasn't long, just a few simple words wishing her happiness, telling her I still loved her, even if I didn't agree with the path she was taking. As much as it broke my heart to watch her walk into this mistake, I couldn't bring myself to wish anything but the best for her. No matter what happened between us, she was still my little girl. A few months went by after the wedding, and life got eerily quiet. Emily moved out, got a tiny apartment with Tyler, and cut off contact almost completely. No calls, no texts, no quick visits. Just silence. It hurt like hell, but I tried to remind myself that maybe this was what she needed. She had to figure things out on her own. I couldn't swoop in and save her every time she stumbled. Then, one evening, there was a knock at my front door. When I opened it, standing there was Tyler. He looked like a wreck, clothes wrinkled, face drawn and exhausted, big dark circles under his eyes like he hadn't slept in days. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice so low I almost didn't catch it. I hesitated for a second, then stepped aside and let him come in. We sat down, and I could tell he was struggling to find the words. Finally, after rubbing his hands together nervously, he spoke. "We're drowning," he said, looking down at his shoes. "The loan payments are killing us. Rent went up. I've been picking up extra shifts wherever I can, but it's not enough. Emily's been trying to find work, but—" He trailed off, and I knew exactly what he meant. Emily didn't have a diploma, no real work history, and from what I knew about her, she was probably being picky on top of it. "We're behind on everything," Tyler admitted. "Rent, utilities, loan payments. We're barely hanging on. I don't know what else to do. I was hoping maybe you could help us out. Just enough to get us back on track." I leaned back in my chair, staring at him, feeling 1,000 emotions battling inside me. A part of me, deep down, wanted to feel bad for Tyler. The guy looked completely beaten down, and it was obvious he was desperate. But another part of me couldn't forget how cocky he was back when I first tried to have a serious talk with him before the wedding. "Tyler," I said, keeping my voice steady and even, "when you and Emily decided to get married, you told me that love was enough. That money didn't matter. Do you still believe that?" He dropped his eyes to the floor, fidgeting with his hands, avoiding looking at me. "I guess I was wrong," he muttered under his breath. I gave a small nod. "I'm sorry you guys are struggling, but I can't help you," I said firmly. "This is your mess, and it's on you to clean it up." He looked like I had sucker punched him. His face fell, and he asked quietly, "You won't even help a little? Just enough to help us catch up?" I shook my head without hesitation. "No. Emily made it very clear she didn't want me involved in her life anymore. I'm just respecting her wishes." Tyler sat there for a second, shoulders slumped like the weight of the world had just crushed him. Finally, he got up and headed toward the door. "I understand," he said, voice barely above a whisper. "Thanks anyway." As he walked out, a sharp pang of guilt tugged at my heart. But I reminded myself, this was the only way they were going to learn. If I bailed them out now, they'd never understand what it means to be responsible for the choices you make. That night, my phone rang, and for the first time since the wedding, it was Emily calling. She wasn't calling to reconnect, though. She was furious. "How could you turn Tyler away like that?" she screamed the second I picked up. "He came to you for help, and you humiliated him." I sighed, already exhausted before the fight even began. "Emily," I said calmly, "you're the one who told me you didn't want me in your life. You can't just pull me back in now because things aren't working out the way you planned." "You're heartless," she yelled. "You don't care about me at all." I stayed cool and steady. "I care about you more than you realize. That's why I'm letting you face the consequences of your own actions. That's what being an adult means, Emily. It's not all love songs and fairy tales. It's hard work, sacrifice, and owning your choices." She slammed the phone down in my ear, hanging up without another word. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel guilty afterward. A few weeks rolled by after Tyler showed up begging at my door, and Emily's angry phone call. I figured the dust had finally settled. She wasn't reaching out, and I wasn't pushing either. As painful as it was, I knew she needed time and space to face reality without me swooping in to rescue her. Then, late one night, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was a string of frantic texts from Emily. "Dad, are you awake? Please, I really need to talk to you. I don't know what to do." My heart started pounding instantly. My mind raced through 100 awful possibilities. Maybe Tyler had gotten hurt. Maybe there was some kind of emergency. I called her right away. "Emily, what's going on?" I asked, doing my best to keep my voice calm. There was a long, heavy silence before she finally spoke. Her voice was shaky, barely holding together. I think I might be pregnant." I froze. Of all the things I thought she might say, that hadn't even crossed my mind. "Are you sure?" I asked gently. "No," she admitted, her voice cracking. "But I'm late, and I have this feeling." She was crying now, and the fear in her voice ripped my heart in two. "Dad," she sobbed, "we can't handle this. We can't even pay the bills we have now. How are we supposed to take care of a baby? I wanted to say, this is the life you chose, but looking at how broken she sounded, I just couldn't do it. No matter how much she had hurt me, she was still my kid, and she needed her dad. Okay, I said softly. First thing we need to do is find out for sure. I'll set up a doctor's appointment for you first thing in the morning. For now, try to breathe, okay? One step at a time. The next morning, I called a local clinic and got her an appointment. The whole drive there, Emily was a wreck, biting her nails, tapping her foot, fidgeting nonstop in the passenger seat. When we arrived, I waited outside in the car while she went in. After about half an hour, she came out and slid into the seat without saying a word. What did they say? I asked, already bracing myself. They said it's too soon to tell, she whispered. They want me to wait another week and come back for another test. The next 7 days were brutal for her. She barely slept, pacing around the tiny apartment she shared with Tyler like a caged animal. She texted me constantly, reaching out for advice, needing reassurance, sometimes just needing someone to tell her everything was going to be okay. For the first time in months, she actually wanted her dad around. During one of our late-night chats, she nervously brought up Tyler. "Dad, do you think you could hire Tyler at your agency?" she asked hesitantly. "Just for a little while, just until we're back on our feet?" Now, I run a small creative agency, a business that requires certain skills Tyler didn't have. Honestly, I doubted he had the work ethic to develop them even if he wanted to. But I could hear the desperation in Emily's voice, and the pressure was mounting fast. "Let's wait and see what the test says first," I told her carefully. "We'll figure things out after that." She didn't like that answer. "You're just making excuses," she snapped. "Why can't you ever just help me when I need you?" Her accusation stung like hell, but I stayed firm. "Emily," I said calmly, "I'm not going to make a move until we know exactly what we're dealing with. Let's just take this one step at a time," I told her. Thankfully, it turned out the pregnancy scare was exactly that, a scare. When Emily got the results from her second test, it was negative. She wasn't pregnant. I thought maybe, just maybe, that kind of relief would humble her a little, make her rethink a few things. But instead, it seemed to make her dig her heels in even deeper. "And you still won't even hire Tyler," she snapped bitterly during one of our arguments. "What kind of father refuses to help his daughter when she's struggling?" I sighed heavily. "Emily," I said, "I've spent your whole life trying to help you. But you made it loud and clear that you don't want me involved anymore. You can't have it both ways." She folded her arms across her chest and shot me a glare that could have frozen the sun. "We all know everything you have is going to be mine someday anyway," she said coldly. "You could at least act like you care about my future." Her words left me stunned. "Emily," I said slowly, "nothing in this world is guaranteed. You think you're automatically entitled to everything I've worked my whole life for? That's not how it works." I leaned forward, making sure she heard every word. "I might retire early. I might spend every dime traveling. Hell, I might even get married again. Whatever I leave behind is my choice, not yours." Her face twisted with anger. "You're so selfish," she spat. "You don't care about anybody but yourself." I didn't even argue. There was no point anymore. No matter what I said, she wasn't hearing it. Over the next few weeks, the distance between us grew wider and colder. Emily stopped calling altogether, and whenever I tried reaching out, she ignored me completely. It broke my heart. Every day, I fought the urge to call her, to just cave and offer her money or try to find Tyler some work. But deep down, I knew that would only make things worse. Emily had to learn the hard way that actions have consequences, and you can't live life expecting someone else to clean up your mess. Knowing it was the right thing didn't make it hurt any less. It hurt like hell. One afternoon, a few days ago, my phone rang. It was Rachel, Emily's mom. She was absolutely furious. "How could you let Emily struggle like this?" she demanded, not even giving me a chance to say hello. "She's your daughter. You're supposed to help her." I took a deep breath, steadying myself before I answered. "Rachel," I said, "I've spent Emily's entire life supporting her. This isn't about me abandoning her. It's about her choices and her needing to own up to them." Rachel wasn't having it. "You're ruining her life," she snapped. "No," I said firmly, "Emily is steering her own life now. If she wants something different, she's the one who has to make it happen." And just like that, Rachel hung up on me. I sat there for a long time, staring at the dead line on my phone, feeling the familiar ache in my chest. I hated that it had come to this. But honestly, I didn't see any other way. Every single day, I hold on to a small hope that Emily will come around. That one day, she'll realize I wasn't the enemy, that every hard choice I made was out of love, trying to protect her from herself. Until that day comes, though, all I can do is wait. Short update 2. A few months rolled by without a word between us. Emily and I weren't speaking at all. Any scrap of news I got about her came secondhand, from our neighbor, Sophie, or one of Emily's old friends who still kept in touch. Most people had pulled away from her too. Emily's stubbornness, her refusal to listen to anyone's advice, had isolated her more than she probably realized. It hurt to see her shutting herself off from everyone, but I kept reminding myself this was part of the lesson she needed to learn. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't Emily. It was Tyler. "Hey, Mr. Bennett," he started, his voice shaky and thin. "I know we haven't really talked since, well, everything. But I just thought you should know Emily's not doing too well." My stomach twisted immediately. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice tight. "Is she okay?" Tyler hesitated. "She's just really stressed. We're drowning in bills, and Emily hasn't been able to find a job. We're fighting all the time. I don't know what to do anymore." For a second, I felt that old tug of sympathy, but I caught myself before it dragged me under. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said carefully. "But Tyler, you and Emily chose this path. You decided to get married, take out a loan, and build a life you couldn't afford." He was quiet for a moment, then said, almost whispering, "I know. I thought we could handle it. I didn't realize how hard it would be." Tyler's call stuck with me for days afterward. It haunted my thoughts while I worked, while I ate, even when I tried to sleep. As much as I wanted to jump in and fix everything, I knew better. They had to figure this out on their own, or they'd never grow up. Then, completely out of nowhere, Emily finally reached out. She sent me a text, "Dad, I need to talk to you." Without hesitation, I called her back. And this time, she actually picked up. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping my voice even, not wanting to sound too eager or too judgmental. She took a shaky breath on the other end. "Tyler and I are thinking about moving back in with his parents," she said. "We can't afford the apartment anymore. We're behind on everything. I don't know what to do." This was the most open and vulnerable I'd heard Emily sound in a long time. For a split second, I actually thought about offering to let them move back in with me. But then I remembered how things went the last time I tried to help her. She didn't want my advice, didn't want my rules. She just wanted access to my resources without any accountability. Instead, I asked, "Have you talked to Tyler's parents about moving in with them?" "Yeah," she said, her voice small and defeated. "They said we could move into their basement, but I don't want to. It feels like giving up." "Emily," I said gently, "sometimes you have to take a step back to move forward. If staying with his parents gives you guys a chance to get your feet under you again, then that's not giving up. It's being smart." She didn't say anything right away. When she finally answered, her voice was sharp, defensive. "You wouldn't understand. You've never had to go through anything like this." I sighed. "Emily, I've made my share of mistakes too. But the difference is, I learned from them. That's what growing up is all about. You learn, you adapt, you get stronger. But you've got to do it yourself. No one else can do it for you." A couple of weeks later, Emily and Tyler did end up moving into his parents' basement. According to Sophie, things were rocky from the start. Tyler's dad was getting more and more frustrated with their lack of direction, and his mom was tired of having 2 extra people in the house who didn't seem to be pulling their weight. One evening, Tyler's dad actually called me. "Mr. Bennett," he said, sounding absolutely worn out, "I hate to bother you, but I'm at my wits' end with those 2. They don't seem to realize how much effort it takes to build a real life. They're still acting like kids." I felt a painful mix of frustration and sadness twist inside me. "I get it," I told him. "I tried to warn them. I really did. But they didn't want to listen. At this point, they're going to have to figure it out the hard way." Tyler's dad let out a long sigh. "I just hope they figure it out before they lose everything." As the months dragged on, things only got worse. Emily and Tyler were fighting constantly, and the money problems were grinding them down. It was heartbreaking to hear about, even from a distance. Then one afternoon, my phone rang. It was Emily, and she was in tears. "Dad," she sobbed, "I think Tyler and I made a huge mistake." My heart sank. "What happened?" I asked carefully. "He's not who I thought he was," she cried. "He doesn't help around the house. He complains all the time about work, and it feels like everything's on my shoulders. I'm doing it all alone." I wanted to say I warned you. I wanted to remind her of everything I had tried to tell her. But I swallowed those words down. Now wasn't the time. Instead, I said, Emily, marriage is tough. It takes real effort from both people. Have you tried talking to him about how you're feeling? I have, she said through her tears. But he doesn't listen. He just says I'm nagging him. For the first time, I heard real doubt creeping into her voice. Maybe, just maybe, she was finally starting to understand the consequences of the choices she had made. Still, despite everything, Emily hadn't apologized. Not for banning me from her wedding. Not for the way she'd treated me over the last year. Part of me wanted to just let it go and focus on rebuilding what little relationship we had left. But another part of me, the part still nursing the wounds she'd left, needed to hear her acknowledge it. One day during a phone call, I decided to bring it up. Emily, I said carefully, can we talk about the wedding? There was a beat of silence before she answered, her tone immediately defensive. What about it? You banned me, I said, keeping my voice calm. You kept me from being part of one of the most important days of your life. Do you regret that? There was a long, heavy pause. Finally, she said, I was angry. I felt like you weren't supporting me. I was trying to protect you, I said quietly. I've always tried to do what's best for you. Even when it wasn't easy. She didn't respond. And I didn't push her. I knew it was going to take time, maybe a long time, for her to fully understand the weight of her decisions. Right now, Emily and I are in a better place than we were a few months ago. But it's still a work in progress. She's still stubborn, still proud. And I'm still trying to figure out how to support her without stepping in to save her every time she stumbles. Every day, I hope she'll come to see that everything I did, every hard choice I made, was out of love. But until then, all I can do is wait and keep loving her the best way I know how. Because that's what being a parent really is, loving your kid, even when they make it just about impossible.